Okay, moving on to the last and final segment of today's show. This week will be one of my favorite weeks in college basketball. And you guys want to know why? Well, it's because of the ACC Big Ten Challenge. And throughout the week, we're going to have so many good matchups. And I thought I would take a whole segment on today's show to predict each and every game and kind of give you guys my quick thoughts on each and every team that will be participating in this challenge, obviously ACC and Big Ten teams. So without further ado, here we go. We'll start off with the first game. Actually, I'll tell you what, before I start off with the first game, tomorrow is a loaded day of college basketball, and we'll start predicting with all of the games tomorrow, but at the same time, we have Creighton at Kansas. That is a heck of a game. This is going to be the first real test for Creighton. I'm going to be very curious to see how exactly they do. And then Kansas, they had the win over Kentucky, but they really struggled at home against North Dakota State. And then at the same time, you also have the Tennessee Volunteers, who finally are going to be hopefully getting on the basketball floor for the first time all season as they take on Tad Boyle and the Colorado Buffaloes. So those are two really good games to look out for on Monday. But without further ado, let's predict these challenges. We'll spend a little more time breaking down all of the important games, and there are some interesting matchups to watch. So without further ado, here we go. We will start off with Purdue. The Boilermakers will go on the road to Miami, and I'm going to pretty confidently say that the Miami Hurricanes are going to win this game. I know this is going to be the first real test for the Miami Hurricanes, but I like their talent. Chris Likes. Earl Timberlake is hurt, but they have a lot of other guys, including Isaiah Wong and Harlan Beverly, who could really make shots consistently. And Miami is a team that in the ACC, right now, they're kind of a team with some question marks. They weren't great last year. They didn't end their season particularly well, but a backcourt of Likes, Beverly, Wong, and then eventually Earl Timberlake, once they come back, I think could be pretty solid. I'm not too high on Purdue right now. They barely beat Valpo, who is not very good, so I will take Miami. How about Boston College going on the road to Minnesota? And BC, they've played better than I've expected. I think they're more talented than anyone could have expected, but I'm going to take the Golden Gophers to win this game. I just think that when you look at the Gophers, they are a sleeper team in my mind. And I understand when you look at their schedule, their games haven't been particularly that close yet, but at the same time, Minnesota with Marcus Carr and Gabe Kalsher and Booth Gotch, that's a really good top three. They bring in the Drake transfer, Liam Robbins. This is going to be another game for the Gophers that will be probably their first major test, and I understand Boston College, out of anyone in the ACC, that's not a major test, but I do believe if you're the Gophers, you're going to gain some confidence. I have Minnesota. First major game here, UNC at Iowa, and Luka Garza has been phenomenal. He's averaging 34 points per game and 10 rebounds per game, and I feel like North Carolina, if any team is suited to stop him, it's them. They have a million big guys for him to guard him, but can they? I'm not sure. Luka's very good, and I'm going to take the North Carolina Tar Heels to pull the upset just because I'm not entirely sold on Iowa yet, because I wasn't entirely sold on them in the beginning of the season. And when I mean I'm not entirely sold, I think they're really good. I think they're a back-end top 10 team. I believe I have them, at number 8 in my top 25 right now. And all I'm saying is I'm not going to have them at number 3 like the top 25 does in the AP until they beat someone legitimately good. If they beat North Carolina, fine. I have no problem ranking them, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think UNC goes on the road and uses the experience that they've had in the Maui Invitational. I think that comes in handy. I think UNC beats Iowa. Ohio State at Notre Dame. Irish are not looking great right now. They got blown out by Michigan State. They only went 7 deep against Detroit Mercer. I understand that's the same team that almost beat Michigan State, but still, if you're a team in the ACC, that's a game you should have. Ohio State's very well coached. I think they're the more talented team. I will take the Buckeyes to get the win over the Fighting Irish. This is low-key a very good game. Penn State, the Nittany Lions, go on the road to take on the Hokies. And Virginia Tech has played well early. They got the nice win over Villanova. But this is another team. As great as the win over Villanova was, I'm not entirely sold. The fact that I don't think the Hokies are a top 25 team. And they beat Villanova, so I understand why they're being ranked. But at the same time, I said it last week, we've seen this movie before. Virginia Tech pulled off a crazy upset win against Michigan State early last season, and really couldn't build on from there. They really, bottomed out to the curb, and I think that's going to happen again. I'm going to take Penn State to bounce back from the tough loss against Seton Hall and get the win here. Penn State's not bad. I mean, Myron Jones, Seth Lundy, they could really score, but at the same time, the fact that Pat Chambers isn't there anymore, I don't think Jim Ferry could be a legitimate hope as your answer, but I think they're going to pull an upset here, go on the road, and beat Virginia Tech. There were some points at that Seton Hall game that I liked. They just unfortunately were not able to hold on in the end. How about Illinois at Duke? It's hard because the key for this game, I think, is Duke's ability to shut down Kofi Cockburn. And the problem is Mark Williams may have to be the guy who's responsible for that. And it's not like Mark Williams has popped so far. He's 6'11", super athletic. He's a freak. He could really play defense, but Kofi is a different animal. And Ayo Dosunmu, he's putting up 24 points per game. I think that could be something where Duke struggles with. I'm going to take the Illinois Fighting Illini to go into Cameron and get the win against Duke. I understand Duke already lost to Michigan State, and they're not particularly a team that when you look at the Devils, you're going to feel confident betting against them 2 games in a row. But in that Michigan State game, I was worried, man. There were signs coming from that Duke team that made me go, oh no, these guys could be in trouble. Jalen Johnson has been good when he's been on the court, but he's been, in and out of foul trouble. DJ Stewart, Jamin Brakefield, all these guys could be fine, but it's not like they've really broken out and popped. Brakefield has been okay. Stewart has been okay, and I'm going to take the Illini to get the win here. I like what Brad Underwood and his team are doing. I understand they did end up taking a really tough loss to Baylor, but I feel like the key takeaway from that game for me was about, oh wow, Baylor is significantly good, not, oh, Illinois is some fraud team. I really like what Illinois has done. I think they go on the road to Cameron, make a statement. Give me the Illini. Syracuse and Rutgers. I feel like Syracuse is one of those teams where right now I just have no idea what they are, and I feel like after this game, I'm still going to have no idea what they are. And with that being said, I'm going to take the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. And this is going to be the first real test for Rutgers, I think. And what's interesting for me is that last year, Rutgers was so good in the Big Ten. And they were able, if the NCAA tournament would have happened, they were in position to make their first NCAA tournament in God knows how long. Rutgers basketball has not been really relevant. And one of the main reasons why they were able to be so good was because of their home court advantage at the rack and the fans just making that a rowdy place. And the game against Syracuse is going to be at the rack, but there are going to be no fans there. So I do think this is going to be a game Syracuse has a legitimate chance to win. But at the same time, I'm going to take Rutgers. I understand Geo Baker's been banged up. He's probably not going to play. But who on Syracuse scares you? Buddy Boeheim, Joe Girard? Yeah, those guys are fine players. But when you have an experienced team like Rutgers with the amount of bodies they have and the amount of experience they have and the amount of chemistry they have playing together, guys like Harper and Miles Johnson, they have some really good players on this Rutgers team. Hopefully, McConnell will be back in there as well. Caleb McConnell, he's been banged up. So I'm going to take Rutgers to win this game. Both teams are kind of thin right now. It's one of the more intriguing 50-50 games of the Big Ten ACC Challenge. This one I'm feeling very good about. I love Clemson to beat Maryland at home. And Tigers have been really impressive. I understand they've beat up on 2 Power 5 teams that haven't looked great in Purdue and in Mississippi State, but Maryland hasn't played anyone. I think Clemson's the more talented team. I like the Tigers at home. Louisville at Wisconsin. I'm going to take the Badgers. I understand there's some people freaking out about Wisconsin and the way they lost to Marquette. I still think Wisconsin's a top 10 team. I still think they're going to be right in the mix for the Big Ten title. They just took a tough road loss. It happens. And I think they bounced back against Louisville. I ranked Louisville in my top 25. I'm still not entirely sold on how good they are, but they have some really nice wins. They have some talent, and they're banged up too. They deserve some credit. How about NC State at Michigan? I'm going to take the Michigan Wolverines to win this game. And Michigan, I watched them against UCF, and there are things that are super concerning. It's just, I don't necessarily know if I could trust Kevin Keats to go on the road and win a huge game like this against Michigan. And these two teams, I think, are kind of similar. I think from a talent perspective, they're pretty similar. In terms of what kind of team they are, they're pretty similar. In terms of branding, both have fan bases that are pretty passionate. I'm going to take Michigan to win at home. I think Livers and Chauncey Brown, the way both those guys have been playing, have been very good. Franz Wagner, obviously super impressive as well. And it's unfortunate because NC State had a game against UConn that was supposed to be on Saturday that I was really looking forward to watching, and unfortunately it got postponed because of COVID. Super unfortunate, but at the same time, it's 2020. Nothing you could really do. So nice game there. I'm going to take Michigan. This is an interesting game. Georgia Tech at Nebraska. I'm going to take Nebraska to win this game, but it has nothing to do with Georgia Tech. I think they're great. I think Nebraska is a really talented basketball team that could cause some havoc if people aren't careful. Historically, they've played very well at Pinnacle Bank Arena. I understand, once again, there are not going to be many fans there this time, so they will all have to adjust. But at the same time, I think Nebraska, if they were in another league, people would be talking about them a little more. It just sucks. The Big Ten is so deep. I'll take Nebraska. I also really like Virginia to beat Michigan State, and I watched Virginia up close against Kent State, and that was a game that they easily could have lost. It went to overtime. But at the same time, I'm not entirely sold on Michigan State after they went into Cameron and beat Duke. Was it a very nice win? Yes. Come Selection Sunday, is it going to be a win that on the resume looks very, very good? Yes. But at the same time, I don't trust this Michigan State team going on the road and winning again. And I understand offensively, Michigan State maybe just much better. But at the same time, I think Hauser and Wilden Tenzai and Jay Huff get going a little bit here. I love the way, remember this name, Reese Beekman, the freshman for Virginia. He's been phenomenal over the first couple games of the season. I expect him to make a big-time impact in the game for Virginia. I like the Cavs to win, and nothing against Michigan State. I still think they are a top 3-4 Big Ten team. I just think they are a little overvalued right now because a lot of people are just saying, hey, we have no one else to rank that high. Next game, Indiana at Florida State. I like Florida State in this one, and Scotty Barnes is a freak. We all saw the dunk he had in their first game, and it's crazy because when we look at this game, I think that Indiana is really good. I think they're a top 25 team. I think Florida State is really good. If Indiana could go on the road and win this game, it will be probably the most impressive win of the Big Ten ACC Challenge. If there's a team that going into this challenge, I'm like, all right, it's not that you're bad. I'm just not expecting you to win. But if you somehow win, you're going to really impress me. For me, that's Indiana. If Indiana could somehow, some way go into Florida State and win, I'll be really impressed, and I will be spending a lot of Friday's show talking about Archie Miller and the Hoosiers. Big game for Indiana, but I will go with Florida State just based on depth. How about Pitt and Northwestern? I'll take Northwestern in this game. I've watched Pitt. They're not very good. I do think for the first time in a while, Northwestern does have some potential with Miller, Kopp, and company on the offensive side of the ball, Bo Bowie as well. I feel like Northwestern is a much more skilled team, especially offensively, plus the fact that they're at home. Give me the Cats. So to recap my ACC Big Ten predictions once again, I like Miami to beat Purdue. I like Minnesota to beat BC. I like UNC to beat Iowa. I like Ohio State to beat Notre Dame. I like Penn State to beat Tech. I like Illinois to beat Duke. I like Rutgers to beat Syracuse. I like Maryland to beat, Clemson to beat Maryland. I'll take Wisco over Louisville. Take Michigan over NC State. I will take Nebraska over Georgia Tech. Take Virginia over Michigan State. Take Florida State over Indiana. And I'll take Northwestern over Pitt. So to recap, if all of my predictions are correct, I like the Big Ten to show just how good of a league they are and win this challenge 8-4. The only ACC teams I like winning are Miami, North Carolina, Florida State, and Virginia. Besides that, I would be surprised if you're an ACC team and you get the job done. But hey, my picks have been very up and down so far to start college basketball season, and I hope I'll be helping you out with these picks. So yeah, really looking forward to the ACC Big Ten Challenge.